How has the federal government managed foreign travel to Canada during the pandemic?
No, I don't think there was enough restrictions on foreign travel, especially travel that is not essential, non-essential. So I really think that they could have tightened up a lot faster on closing the borders and putting restrictions on airlines and restrictions on public transportation. I really don't think that the government did enough and fast enough in terms of restrictions.
It's tough. Nobody really knew for sure how to deal with it, and it was all put together on the fly. I think I would have tightened things down a little sooner. It kind of goes to a wider opinion of mine that there should have been more severe lockdowns a lot sooner. It would have affected people more in the short run, but I think in the long run it would have been a lot better if we had taken it more seriously right up front. And I know they try and get the balance between keeping business open, people's livelihoods. But if you just stretch it out and stretch it out and stretch it out by not locking down properly in the first place, I think you end up losing anyway. So
again, I think it's a real challenge to try and keep people out or refrain people from having to travel. I think it has to come down to the concept of a necessity. And again, I think it's individual people that need to really evaluate, was that necessary for me to travel? Is it, absolutely pertinent that we travel? So we could always look back and see how we could do things differently. But I think for the most part, again, it's a challenge, and everybody was learning through this process. So I think we're making good positive steps and moving forward. So
I certainly hope they've been doing their best from a borders control standpoint. I mean, obviously I'd like to see more testing and tighter restrictions on that. But understand we can't shut down the world completely overnight. As I said, I think we could be doing better, and there are other things we could be, whether it's from a testing or restriction standpoint, maybe acting a little bit quicker in times where we see places like India where the variants are emerging. But all in all, I think similar to the provincial, we've done well, with room for improvement, obviously.
And it's hard too because it's the federal government that will manage the international travel and actually travel in general that's interprovincial, while still trying to work with the different provinces, if provinces want to shut down, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of logistics that go into that I think is easier than just snapping your fingers and saying stop travel coming from here. Having said that, if there's big outbreaks in certain countries, they have been on that, maybe a tad too late. But again, we don't know the intricacies of all the hurdles and legal sort of battles that they have to go through to deal with that.
There's no manual stating what to do and what not to do. So I guess, I'm no liberal by any chance, but they're doing the best they can.
Not great. Obviously, we wouldn't be in this position that we are now compared to, New Zealand, for example. I remember it was, January 2nd, of 2020, and I was reading about COVID, and I remember being like, oh, we should probably shut the border down, right now. And then, obviously, that did not happen, and then here we are. So it wasn't great. Or even that foreign travel is an option in general right now, I think is a little strange, because I even know someone who went to Texas not that long ago and came back and didn't isolate. So it's kind of not great.
I think it's been kind of bad. I feel like they should have just completely closed the borders, 100% completely, not let anybody in.
I think they should have restricted it unless you have a reason to leave the country or come into the country. It should have been shut down completely. So I don't think anybody should be traveling for leisure right now.
I think it could have been done a little bit differently. I think they finally put some restrictions for 30 days from international travelers from India and Pakistan. So I think things could have been a little bit different. But like I said, I think everybody's trying to do their best in this unprecedented time. So I don't want to be too judgmental, but I do have a feeling that it could have been done a little bit different.
I think they've done a great job. I think the fact that people keep taking the negative rather than the fact that you have to isolate, you have to have a test before you get here. After, 4 days, you have to have another test. I think they've done a really, really good job.
They should have locked the borders down from day one. As soon as the second wave hit, lock the borders down. I don't think they should have opened up air travel. I don't think any non-essential travel should have been restricted. We're in the situation we are because our leaders haven't taken it seriously.
All the governments have been back and forth, and nobody seems to know what they're doing. And I mean, this cutting off India at this point, I guess that was wise, but probably should have done it sooner. But I don't know, it's hard for them. I don't blame Trudeau particularly. He's done just as well as our premier, for example.
I think they've done a great job in trying to shut things down and trying to restrict foreign travel. I think that the government's done a great job.
I think it's an ongoing experience for them, and this whole COVID thing there's never been a precedent for it, so I'll give them the benefit of doubt, because it's hard to, if you don't have a precedent, to follow guidelines basically. And I think, you know, with the borders closing and trying to enforce the quarantine, they're trying to do a good job.
I think in most cases it's handled it very well. There's always going to be people that are going to travel regardless, and I think, you know, basically making sure that they've been quarantining, that sort of thing, have stopped the spread. Not entirely. I think there are pros and cons to every decision you make, and governments can't live and rule every portion of our lives, right? They can just do the best what's good for society as a whole.
Imagine if we had closed down foreign travel way back when, how little the variants perhaps would have gotten into our country.